So I've been trading equities for nearly a decade, and almost every single year since I've been trading equities, I've outperformed the market, which for those of you guys that don't know, outperforming the market just means that you're doing more than the benchmark, which is the S&P 500. For example, year to date at the time of this video, my portfolio is up 40%, while the S&P 500 is up around 27%. And so you may be asking, well, if you're doing very well with trading equities over a decade or near a decade now, why incorporate futures? And so I wanted to make a video to kind of just talk about why I'm going to be trading futures as well, for those that are familiar with the channel, but also for those people who've never seen me before. I want to go ahead and break down why I'm going to be breaking into trading futures. Now, being honest, the timing for me to start trading futures is a bit chaotic. It's not the best time, simply because I do have a lot on my plate. For example, those that have been following the channel, you guys know that, I recently enrolled in the CMT programs because I'm working towards getting the CMT designation. I already did exam 1, which, if you don't know, that's Chartered Market Technician. All this simply means is that once you pass all 3 levels, you get fancy letters behind your name saying, look, you dedicated hundreds and hundreds of hours to studying, and you're now deemed a professional in the realm of technical analysis. So I'm still working towards getting that designation at the time of this recording. I already did exam 1, but I'm also working towards sharpening up my fundamental skills, right? I'm just trying to look into actually getting a designation for fundamental analysis, which would be CFA, which is Chartered Financial Analyst, right? So those are some other fancy letters behind your name. And just overall, just sharpening my, analysis when it comes to technical analysis, fundamental analysis. And then on top of all that, right, I'm also looking into learning how to code Python and C++, which is something I have no clue about at the time of this recording, but I want to incorporate more of a quantitative analysis towards how I evaluate what's going on in the markets. And so I'm delving into the realm of futures, or really just dipping my toes into the realm of futures, while at the same time I'm just sharpening my skills in all these other areas. And it seems chaotic, but I want to go ahead and share the reason why. Now, it's not a very simple answer. I wish it could be a one-worded answer like, oh, it's gonna be because maybe you can make more money in futures, or because I think it's fun. And it's really not that simple. It's a kind of layered, complex answer, and I want to go ahead and answer it and kind of share why I'm getting drawn into futures. Now, this does not mean that I'm gonna stop trading, equities, or start, only focusing on futures. I'm gonna obviously pay attention to what's going on with individual companies, but I'm also going to kind of dedicate some time to futures. Now, one of the main reasons is because I have this idea that futures align with kind of the style of, participating in the market that I have. For example, if you guys have seen my videos in the past, you guys know that I like looking at the technicals. What's the price action looking like? I like looking at the fundamentals, looking at what the intrinsic value is of a, actual company is. And I like looking at, alternative data, the data that people aren't looking at. And then on top of that, macroeconomic data, right? And so I kind of synthesize everything together to really come up with an idea of how I'm going to go ahead and trade or perform in the market. And one of the things that, is a real huge aspect of trading futures is understanding what's going on globally. And I think that part of my success for equities has been because of I look at what takes place globally. And I want to give you guys a prime example of that. And you guys, as the minute I give this example, you guys will understand exactly what I mean. For example, earlier this year, I made a video saying how I was going to buy into Hershey stock. And I was like saying how, look, based on the fundamentals, this looks great. And so I bought into Hershey's. But then after a bit, I ended up just getting out of Hershey's for a small profit. And one of the main reasons why I exited that position from Hershey's was because I started looking at how, the actual company performs and what does Hershey's need to actually be successful. And you could crunch the numbers all you want. You could look at PE ratios. You could do discounted cash flow models, all you want. You could do all this fundamental analysis, but you also have to understand what's taking place. And one of the issues or one of the reasons why I ended up exiting that position for Hershey's was because I saw that in Ghana, right, one of the places in Africa where 60% of cocoa or cocoa, however you want to pronounce it, is made and exported, they were having an issue with actually growing this material, which is vital for Hershey to be successful. And so there's this supply and demand kind of effect taking place where, okay, they're not growing as much cocoa, and that means that cocoa prices are gonna skyrocket, and that's gonna hurt Hershey's. And so that's why I exited out my position. Now, it was a great idea to exit out that position because year to date, at the time of this recording, Hershey's ended up doing below 11%, or not below, but negative 11%. It fell down 11% year to date. And one of the huge issues was because the price of cocoa was going up, and this really hurt the margins of Hershey, right? And everyone knows Hershey's a company. It's like the little kisses. You guys are familiar with Hershey's are. And so, as much as you could do your fundamental analysis, your technical analysis on Hershey's, you might have not seen the train wreck coming if you weren't paying attention to what was going on in Africa and what was going, or this region of Africa, because obviously Africa is huge, but what was going on to the supply of cocoa or cacao, right? However you want to pronounce it. Maybe you guys could correct me. COCOA, right? But the issue was, look, there's something taking place globally that's going to impact a huge aspect of this business. And so that has kind of been my approach for many companies. It's not just Hershey's, but I look at things like this all the time for many different companies, right? I do this for Tesla. If you guys watch my videos on Tesla, I talk about, what's going on in China, what's going on in Europe, what's going on with batteries, etc. I mean, I delve into all this and not just look at, what's going on with the fundamentals or the price action. And so I think that being that this style of analysis I have is very unique, where you pay attention to what's taking place globally, it kind of makes sense to also venture off to futures where this is a huge aspect. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm drawn into trading futures. But another aspect is a lot of the people I looked up to or read about often traded futures as well. For example, one of my favorite traders of all time is Ray Dalio, right? He's still alive to this day. He runs Bridgewater Associates, which is a hedge fund. And yes, he trades equities in his hedge fund, but he also trades futures, right? Commodities, right? He also trades like interest rates, currencies, etc. But in one of the books, I think it's somewhere on the shelf, pretty much 90% of the books on that shelf all deal with trading, whether it's fundamental analysis, technical. I mean, pretty much, and that's not even way more books than that. I just gotta, find time to organize that, right? I actually got a few more books recently that my fiance bought. But anyways, the point is, Ray Dalio often talks about in his book, Principles, how he really enjoyed trading. I remember at one time he was trading, I think it was cattle and live hogs, and he was understanding the actual business and, how this actually applies to a lot of the fast food restaurants, and understanding that gave him this advantage for trading those commodities. And so, I kind of thought, well, if this is someone I look up to and he has like this kind of fun trading futures, that may be something I'd be interested. But it's not just Ray Dalio. There's been other famous traders like Paul Tudor Jones, right? He's another hedge fund manager, and he primarily trades currencies and futures, right? So someone else I look up to. But then also one of my favorite traders, or actually one of the greatest traders of all time, at one point he was the richest man pretty much in the world, was Jesse Livermore. And Jesse Livermore, made a fortune during, the Great Depression shorting, but he also talked a lot often about trading futures, right? He would trade, I believe it was cotton, right? And so, someone like myself who I'm honestly looking at what's sick. I remember back when Russia first invaded Ukraine, I was like, well, this is going to impact wheat, and this wheat production being, stifled is going to have, an impact on these individual companies, etc. And so, that's kind of the approach I took. And I said, well, why not kind of take that same idea and apply it to futures, especially if a lot of the traders that I loved reading about, looking up to, studying about, often traded futures. It kind of makes sense. But on top of that, right, obviously as I'm going through the CMT designation, I'm finding out, a lot of these, chartered market technicians, they're skilled in many different areas, right? They trade commodities, they trade, currencies, they trade, what else do they trade? Equities, etc. And so I thought, well, I'm someone who's just isolated in one area, and I think for growth, it's good to kind of challenge yourself into delving into a different market. Now, the different markets, the concepts are structurally the same. It's not like things drastically change, right? Yeah, crypto, I'm not a, big, I know people get upset when I say this. I'm not a big fan of crypto, but structurally, crypto is kind of the way it trades is kind of the same format of a lot of these other asset classes. And so, it kind of makes sense. Now, also, one thing I do like about futures is that a lot of times with futures, you have what's called a prop firm where you could get funded. Now, getting funded as a trader is often seen as it's very challenging, and that's when you have to pass this series of tests, and then afterwards you're funded with this account. It could be 50K, 100K, and then you're able to trade with that account. Of course, there's different parameters that you have to work within to maintaining that funded account. But I thought, look, why not get myself up for the challenge? Why not go ahead and try to challenge myself to become a funded futures trader? And so this way I'm not risking my own capital, and I could also delve into a different market that I, at this point have no experience with. Now, again, I do have a lot on my plate. Learning how to code Python, see, especially, and I say this because maybe someone watching this video has like a tech background, but if you're someone like myself who you've done nothing in your life for programming, trying to learn these programming languages can be very challenging in my opinion, but I think it's worth it, especially since I just want to sharpen up my skills when it comes to just automation and scraping for alternative data and kind of implementing more quantitative data. But maybe that's me nerding out, right? Because again, at the end of the day, I think one of the pillars for success, often people say it's discipline, but I kind of disagree. I think discipline helps you kind of stay consistent, but I think it's an obsession. And if anyone who maybe you're not familiar with the channel, but just hearing me talk, I'm sure you could hear that it's not just something that I have some sort of interest in. There's obviously a huge obsession in participating in the markets, especially if all I read is about historic figures and what's going on in the economy. I mean, that's pretty much what I consume my whole life, or really give my whole life into. And so, with that said, I wanted to go ahead and just provide an update that, look, I'm going to be entering into futures. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop with equities. I'm not going to stop looking at companies, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of expand my range and kind of go into a different asset class. And I'll definitely provide periodic updates. So make sure to, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button, as it does help out with the YouTube algorithm. And also comment in the comment section below if you've had any experience with futures. I'm definitely willing to hear, what your experience has been like. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you hate about it, right? But with that said, hopefully you guys got some value in today's video, and I'll see you guys on this next one. Take care, guys.